For today's episode, we scroll back the pages of history to 17th century Rora, Italy. Now, this is before the separation of church and state. Rather, it was quite the opposite. However, one man would stand his ground, and that is Joshua Janavel. Before we begin, please forgive me if I butcher some of these names. Our story begins in the Piedmont region at the foot of the mountains between Italy and France. Joshua at this time was a successful farmer and a leader in his small community. However, this would all change when the Duke of Savoy would launch a political and religious military operation. The year was 1655, and the goal was the eradication of the Waldensian population. To simplify this for our modern minds, on one hand we have the Waldensians, who we would view as Protestants, and on the other hand was the government and their forces, which were Catholic. So the government then viewed the Waldensians as heretical for their beliefs. As the Duke's forces invaded, the population was given the option of abandoning their Protestantism or death. This then would result in over 1,700 deaths, and a revolt led by none other than Joshua himself. Outnumbered and with inferior weaponry, Joshua would lead a guerrilla warfare campaign against their oppressors. Now, this wouldn't be a swift victory. Actually, they would be forced back into the mountains where they could better defend and counter the Duke's forces. After years of fighting and being gravely wounded in battle, Joshua would continue to lead the resistance with the help of his friend Bartholomew. However, in an effort to finally end this conflict, the Waldensian people would agree to exile Joshua to Geneva, Switzerland, as he was seen as a hero by his people and a direct threat to the Catholic Church. It was here that he was welcomed and known as the Lion of Rora. It was there that despite being monitored by spies, Joshua would play his final role in this conflict, and that would be the return of his people to their homeland of Rora. In the end, the return would actually be bittersweet, as Joshua by that time was too old to make the journey himself, and he would pass away a year after the return in hearing of its success. I love Joshua's story because it is one of courage to stand up against one's oppressors and perseverance. Now, in today's world, especially in the United States, it is all too easy to forget that people have died and still die for their faith. This man, Joshua, refused to put his life ahead of his morality, and furthermore, was willing to sacrifice himself for those who couldn't protect themselves. Lastly, in today's society, we often forget what is meant by the separation of church and state. It wasn't to stop people from voting along the lines of their religious values. Rather, it was to stop a government from forcing religious values on its people, and that is an important distinction. Anyways, that was some quick history. Please like and subscribe, that way I can bring you more videos.